Welcome is the first thing to say. This is Baden Povelio House. This is our central London place. It's a number of things. It's a conference facility which we rent out to schools and businesses and so on to generate money. And above us is a hostel, some sleeping rooms, which is managed by in partnership with a German company called Mining. And it generates income for us. So you're welcome here, and you're going to the real home on Sunday at Gilwell. Should just explain who I am, perhaps. My name is Steven Peck. I am the what's called the Director of Programme and Development. But I'm the really help you understand. I'm the Operations Director for Scouting in the UK. Okay. I work and I live at Gilwell Park. So one of my roles is as the camp chief of Gilwell, which how we may have come across each other. I also work with the European region, doing consultancy work with other NSOs, and for the world as well, doing some of the global support work with NSOs across the world. I've been in scouting forever. So, just to explain that. My responsibilities in the UK are to look after the programme, so the youth programme for our 6 to 25 young people, our work with adults, so adult support, so how we recruit adults, how we do their training, how we do their induction, how we do their reviews, everything to do with adult support. Our development work, so how we start scouting in communities where scouting is not very strong at the moment, so how we continue to grow scouting in the UK. Our international work, so anything to do with jamborees and foreign people. Our activities policy, and also I'm responsible for managing our activity centres. So we have some campsites, some activity centres like Gilwell and here, where we have about 6 of those across the UK, and I'm responsible for managing those. So really the scouty things to do with our headquarters. Does that help explain who I am? Yes? Yes? It's clear?
Yes. Yep.
Good. Okay. I understand that you're the board of Lithuanian Scouts?
Some additional people from Bureau. Adult Resources Commissioner and our Administrative Commissioner.
Yes,
That's a great job, isn't it? Yeah.
Rewarding.
So, what I thought I would do is just, I've had a briefing, some discussion over email, but I have some slides which I thought I would just share with you to talk about how UK Scouting has developed over the last few years, and that may throw up some questions which we can discuss after that. Is that okay? Sure. So I don't want to talk for 2 hours. I prefer it to be a discussion, but I know you have to leave at 2 o'clock at the latest, yes, to get to your embassy. Sorry?
But we have to be at 2 at the embassy.
At 2?
Yes.
Not 2:30.
2:30? Okay, cool.
Yeah, and it's only a little way. Well, it's not so.
Half an hour.
Half an hour. Well, anyway, if we'll finish before then. My point is, I don't want to lecture you for 2 hours. I'm happy to have a discussion and then share with you any information that would help. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good. Okay, so I should just explain a bit about UK Scouting. And then you have an idea of the size, and then I have a little story about what has changed in UK Scouting over the years, because I understand you are in the process of changing your organisation and updating and changing things. And this is really my approach is to share our story with you. It's not to say that we are right, or this is how you should do it. It's just a story from the UK in this culture, in this country, at this time in our development, it's not, please don't think that I'm here to say, oh, this is perfect, this is the way you should do it. It's literally, it's our story. Does that? So please approach it with that in your mind. That's really important. So let me tell you a bit about the UK. So we have about 450,000 young people throughout the UK. We have, working with those young people, about 100,000 leaders, and also about, in addition to that, and I know one of the issues you've been discussing is how to involve older people and so on. We have about, and we don't know the exact number, so you'll have to be kind to me, about 30,000, let's call them supporters. Yep. So adults who help with scout groups, but are not uniformed or leaders. They are perhaps parents, but I'll explain that a bit more. So they're the sort of basic numbers. We have 8,500 groups, scout groups, okay, and they are in 800 what we call districts. About 80 what are called counties, so bigger groups, so it's quite a big management operation. You will understand with these sorts of numbers it's quite hard. And then I won't bore you with the details here, but there's a regional structure in England and Wales. You know, we have other countries as part of the UK, so they are in there. So we are basically what we call 11 regions of the UK, 3 of which are countries. It's complicated UK politics, but maybe this will go down to 10 next week.
I'm hoping for that.
No, I'm not hoping for that at all, but maybe it will, maybe it won't, we don't know. But currently there are 11, and Craig comes from the from number 11, so I better leave it at 11. Okay? Yes? So that's the sort of size of the organisation. From a headquarters perspective, we excuse me, writing right down here, but just leave it up there. We have a board like you, okay, which is a little bigger than yours, probably about 20, 25 people on the board. But it's like most Scout associations have a board, a national board. Some people are elected, some people are appointed. Maybe the different thing in the UK is that we have people who are not Scouts that we ask to come onto the board because they have specific responsibilities. So where we have a gap in our skills, we can invite, we have 4 or 5 places for people that we can ask to come in and help us. So people from business perhaps, or people from organisational development, key skills. We have a particular interest in the racial diversity and in our country at the moment, so we have someone who is an expert in this area to come on. So we can invite people who are not Scouts to be part of that board. Okay. From a staff perspective, we have about 300 staff. But this is perhaps a bit of a seems like a very big number, but a lot of those people are involved in generating income or are involved in the delivery of services. So this includes the people who run here, the activity instructors at Gilwell Park, our fundraising people, our scout shops, our insurance people. So we have our own insurance company that has about 25 people working in it.
and we have a scout shop which has about 50 people, 40 or 50 people. So it's not when it says 300, probably 150 of those or 100 of them are generating money for us. Okay, so all in all, we probably have a turnover in money, because you're interested in money, you're a board, so you're interested in that, of about, it changes a little, and it depends how you operate it, but about 40 million a year. Okay? Does that help sort of bring some sort of context? It's a very big organisation for Europe. Okay? And I understand that, and that's why I'm saying when I come on, I wanted to explain this, because when I come on to talk about what we do and how we do it, you have to put it in this context, that it's a very big association, particularly for Europe. Yeah? Is that okay? Any questions?
It's clear.
It's clear? Okay.
A lot of them.
Sorry?
A lot of people and everything.
It is a lot of people, and it is quite a big machine. And the difficulty that it brings for us, and this is where I come to talk here, is that it takes a long time to change things in our organisation. So, you know, we have 8,500 group leaders, and you cannot get 8,500 people to any meeting anywhere to explain things to them. So we have to have it takes a long time, particularly with culture and to explain to people strategy and the direction of the organisation. It takes a lot of effort and a lot of time, because we know all these people here are volunteers. You know, it's the same as you. All these people are volunteers, and therefore, in my mind, I always think we have their brain for perhaps 5, maybe 6 hours a week for most of these people. Now, I know you give much more time than that, but for the average group leader or leader in scouting, they perhaps give 5 or 6 hours. If we were a business, and we're not a business, if we were a business, we would have their brain for 40 or maybe 50 hours a week. So it takes 10 times longer to achieve things than you would in a business. Yeah? But our people are like yours, are very motivated, so we can move things a little faster. But it still takes 3 to 5 years to make a change in the organisation. And again, I'll talk you through, but one of the things that we have looked at is the very long term. So we have a strategy which is looking at 10 years, minimum 4 to 5 years, but really 10 years, the changes that we want to see. Okay? Make sense? Please shout, scream, ask questions, do something. If I'm talking too fast, then please say. Okay? Seriously. Is that all right?
So the board is volunteers?
Yes. Yes, there's only one staff member. I attend, but I'm not a voting member. So our chief executive is the only volunteer, the only member of staff. Everyone else is volunteer. Over half are elected. Okay, so there has to be a majority of elected people, but we have some appointed people, so our commissioners and people like that, and we have some external people, which I explained before, but the majority are elected people. And this is, we were saying, our annual meetings tomorrow, and we will elect some new people onto our board during that meeting tomorrow. But yes, they are all volunteers. Okay. Does that help? Yeah, puts it sort of in context, really. This gives us some advantages and some disadvantages. The disadvantage I have already touched on, that it takes a long time to achieve anything. Communication is very hard and very expensive. The advantage is that it gives us a lot of resources. So we're very lucky to have places like this, like Gilwell, like some of the activity centres, a scout shop and so on, to generate those resources. So we try very hard to reduce as much as we can the income that we ask from our members. So our income into our association, probably about, from memory, only about 50% is from a membership fee. so the charge to the association. We also get almost nothing from our government in terms of support. So we get some money to support very specific projects, but we don't get a general support from the government at all, nothing. So, which is tough, I have to say. So, excuse me. Let me tell you the story, and then we can talk a little more. Does that help? Is that okay? Yeah. Good stuff. Right, I'm going to press buttons now. So, here we go. A short story, and it will be a short story, okay? So, in the 1990s, and it does go back this far, so I'm not going to give you a long history lesson, but my point is, with a lot of this, that we've had a very long-term plan, and it has taken a long time to achieve some of the things that we've managed to achieve. In the 1990s, we were losing 30,000 people a year. So the numbers of people that were leaving scouting was 30,000 every year. So we were declining. I have a graph to show you a little later on, but we were really on the decline. And we wanted to change that, obviously. So we set about having a very long-term plan of what we were going to achieve. We knew we had to change just about everything about scouting in the UK over that time. So I'll come on and explain it, but we changed everything. The age ranges, the uniform, the programme, the adult training, even down to where our offices were. So our main office was here, next door, and we sold this building and built another building at Gilwell Park to reduce our costs. And you will see that on Sunday. But we took it in sort of 10-year chunks with a rolling programme. So the words are not important, but we had to change some of the things that we were looking at, and these are some of the examples that I've used. We were aiming for 2007 for the Jamboree there, which we were kind of stuck with, because people expected the UK to run the Jamboree in 2007. But we started internally at first in these 3 to 4 years where we changed the staff structure. We made about a third of our staff redundant. We cut them and then built up from there. We introduced a call centre for our members, so our members could ring the central office and ask questions. So from do you have a programme idea for me, through to can you explain this rule to me, through to can you explain this national strategy to me. But it was a call centre which operates from 8 o'clock in the morning until 7 o'clock at night, where people can phone and just ask any question that they have. And this was really important to us in getting closer to our members, so that we didn't appear to be the people in the ivory tower up here. And that was really important. We also changed our uniform, make it more up to date. And down here, between this period and this period, we changed, as I said before, our programme. So we reinvented our programme, we changed our age ranges, we moved around a bit, and a lot of new programme material for our leaders. A lot of it online, so that people could go online and get the information rather than having to buy books. That was really important to us. And then we had to look at the Jamboree. Now, for us, the Jamboree was an opportunity, but also a huge risk. You will know that running a big world event can cost you a lot of money, and a lot of associations have lost a lot of money from running a world event. So the Scouts in Canada would be a good example. The French Scouts in Canada would be a good example with the Moot. And the Jamborees before this had lost a lot of money, and that could bankrupt us basically, or knock us off. So we had to be very careful with this. So this is what we were doing. So in our infrastructure, we changed our national committees. We had too many people, too many committees, spending too much time talking and not enough doing. So we reduced the number of committees, we reduced the size of the committees,
We also changed the way, the makeup of those committees, and this is when we introduced external people. We realised that democracy is a fantastic thing, but you can have too much sometimes. So if everybody is elected, you don't necessarily have around the table the skills that you need to run a big organisation. You end up with big gaps in your skills. And therefore we needed to fill those gaps. So the people who were around the table were very good scouts, but they were running a very big business, a very big organisation, and we needed people to come in and help us run that organisation. So we changed the way those committees were structured, having people from outside, or giving ourselves the opportunity to have people from outside scouting to help us. And we were surprised at the quality of people, the very highly skilled people, some very big business people, some very big organisational, some very big, high profile, expensive people were happy to give us their time for nothing to help us with this project, and still are. We're very lucky. We changed the national staff team, it says here. We changed the national offices, I've talked about that. But for us, this was a really important thing in that it reduced the cost as well. You know, it wasn't just a case of building an office, it was that actually our costs reduced by about £300,000 a year. So that was really important to us. The information centre I've talked about. We tried to build a website. We're still not very good at it, but we have an okay website. And we changed our uniform as well to try and change the image of scouting in the UK as well. All right. So very quickly, we changed our curriculum. We changed the age ranges based on research with young people. I'll come back to research because research for us has been absolutely key in finding out what to do as we move forward. Changed adult support and a load of new books and new resources to help leaders, because we realised the thing that the leaders wanted was help to run a good programme. Okay, and when we asked our leaders what they wanted, they were saying more resources to run a good programme. Please don't tell us about these big national strategies. Help me run a good programme week by week, and that's what we focused on here. Jamboree I will touch on, but for us at the time it was an opportunity. We had to get ready to run that jamboree, but we had to be fit to be able to do that. We realised if our numbers kept going down, we would have nobody between the ages of 14 to 18 to participate in the jamboree. So we would be the first organisation to run a jamboree but have nobody in the right age range to be part of it. So this was not a good place. But the most important thing for us was to spread, not to run the jamboree, but to spread the message around the UK. So the most important thing for us was to engage people around the UK. We also used it as a way of, and I'll come back to this, of improving our external media and public relations side of things. And that was a big mission for us, getting fit to be able to do that. So then we went on, here you can see this, and now we then set another set of projects about growing, involving more young people, improving our brand, getting better at managing resources, being relevant, and by that we mean being seen by the public as relevant. Because again, our research was saying that the public thought scouting was a very good thing, but sort of something that was really stuck in the 1960s. So we needed to change the image of scouting here. And this word, I'm sorry, is disappearing, but diverse, and that's a particular challenge in the UK, is the diversity of our population, and it's only increasing all the time. So we needed to address that. One of our statements was that scouting, the membership of scouting, should reflect the population where scouting happens. So if there is a big black population, if there is a big Muslim population, there should be the same number of Muslims proportionately in scouting as there are in the population. So we needed to do that. So we had a big focus on recruiting and retaining, because you can recruit young people, it's keeping them that is the problem, and it was the same for leaders. We were very, very good, and we still are very good at recruiting leaders. We're very bad at keeping them. again, when we looked at our numbers, we realised that the average length of time of a scouter in the UK at that time was about 2 years. Okay, so you stayed a scouter for average for 2 years. Now this was all sort of lie. You've heard this expression: lies, damn lies, and statistics. When we went to understand why that was, because we couldn't understand it. Everybody I knew in scouting had been in it forever. So why was it 2 years? We found that if we removed from those numbers everybody who left in the first 6 months, the average went up to 17 years. Yeah? So we were very good at recruiting people. We were rubbish at keeping them. They all left in the first, lots of people left in the first 6 months. So we needed to do a lot on retaining people. So we also realised that, a real strong underpinning part of what we've done is we have not tried to recruit young people at all. We have done nothing about recruiting young people. All we have done is tried to recruit more adults, because we realised that if we had more adults there would be more capacity to take more young people. Okay, so we have just spent our time really up to now just recruiting adults and trying to get better groups at local level, not recruiting young people at all, because our research said that young people join scouting locally. They don't join it nationally. They join it at scout groups, and they join because their friends tell them it's good. That's why they join. They don't join because you do a big fancy marketing campaign here. They do it because their friend says, this is really good fun, come along and try it with me. So with better leaders or more leaders, you can run a better program. This has had another problem for us, but I'll explain what that is. We've also looked very carefully at how we involve our parents in here, because we know that half our leaders are ex-scouts, okay, and they stay for a long time, and half our leaders are parents of scouts who stay for perhaps 3 to 5 years. So we needed to do something about recruiting more parents, because we didn't have enough young people or people coming through the organisation to cope with the growth. We needed more people from outside. So now it's about half and half. Okay, and this brings recruiting and involving parents brings its own challenges, as you can imagine. People don't have skills, they don't have an understanding of the culture and the values and so on. So this changed the way that we were training and inducting and involving people in scouting. We also know that going to a parent and say, will you be a leader? They go, no, I won't do that, because it's too big a job. Will you help me with this tiny little job? Yes, I will. And then I'll do a bit more, and then I'll do a bit more, and then I'll do a bit more. And eventually it's like a fish. You sort of reel them in. But that process takes perhaps a year. And the thing that makes the difference when they go from being a parent to being a leader is going to camp. So we had a big push on taking parents to camp, because then they were able to ask all the sort of silly questions that they don't get a chance to ask. So what does this badge mean? Why do you do this? Why do you do this? Why do you shake with the left hand? What does this mean? What does that mean? Sorry. All those things. Okay? And then they feel more involved in it. We also wanted to involve more of our young people in the running of the organisation. So we had a big push on involving young people in decision making. We introduced a young leaders scheme, so for young people between 14 and 18 they could become young leaders, and this has been very, very successful for us in bringing younger people in, because we realised that if we could bring people through scouting and they stayed longer, then that's where we should be focusing our effort. You know, if parents only stay for 3 years, but these people from scouting stay 15 years, they're the people that we should be investing in. So this is what we did here. We also, in order to change our image, we trained, and we still train, a lot of young spokespeople. So when we are ever in the media, in the newspapers, on television, or anything, it's always young people who are shown on the television, never old men like me. Okay, so you will never see pictures of me on the television or in the media. But we train those young people to go and deal with journalists and present scouting. So again, it begins to change the image, right? So at that time, a lot of the pictures that were appearing of scouts were old men presenting medals to other old men. Okay, and we wanted to change that image of young people having fun and doing activities. So we trained a lot of 14 to 20-year-olds to be our media spokespeople locally and nationally. So they would get in their local papers, on their local websites, in their communities, to change the image of scouting. And this has been really powerful way of changing. So also in terms of the brand, we were looking at our everyday adventure brand. So we were saying to people, scouts do not do extreme sports, but it's an everyday adventure that is accessible to everybody. We had a new visual identity and this brand. Through this, we were able to attract people like Bear Grylls as our chief scout, and that's been very powerful to us in terms of getting external support to scouting. But it's through that sort of brand change. But also there was a sort of a business strategy that underpinned this as well. So we were looking at how we used our assets. So we had a lot of campsites, far too many. We couldn't possibly manage all of them. So we sold some, and we invested the money in the ones that were left, brought them up to modern day standards, sold them externally to school groups, and now we make money from them rather than them costing us money. As just an example. How we manage our staff, our activity centres and our conferencing. So when you go to Gilwell on Sunday, Gilwell Park for the first 85 years didn't make money. Okay, now it makes money, but more importantly, equally importantly for me, there are more scouts going there than there have been for the last 25 years. So the two things together, the two things are not incompatible. It's just during the week we have school groups there, at the weekend we have scouts. Yeah? But it generates some income for us, which is really important. We have some subsidiary companies as well. So Unity is our insurance company, so we have an insurance company that provides insurance services for scout groups, but also externally in scout shops. We also had a big push on working with companies to sponsor, and you will see some pictures in a minute of badges that the young people wear, which are sponsored by companies. And this started slowly as we went to this is why I was talking about the history. It's taken a long time to get there, but now a badge sponsorship is one way that we generate income. But our sponsorship is not just about money. What we say is, if a company wants to sponsor a badge, they pay us money, but they also have to pay for resources for the leaders to run that badge. So if you want to sponsor a cook's badge, you say you're a food company, you have to pay us, say, £40,000 or £50,000, but you also have to pay for program material for leaders to be able to run that badge. So our leaders benefit and we get some income as well. So it's that balance. But the more we have done it, the more companies want to get involved. And now we have more companies than we have badges, frankly. And what that means is we can put the price up, of course. So this is a good thing. And fundraising. We were and still are not great at fundraising, but we need to look at, because you cannot do a lot of these things without money, as you know. And we were never going to get money from our government. So we had to generate our own income. Again, very quickly, diversity is a big issue in the UK. We need to look at getting more girls involved. Ethnicity, culture, faith, sexual orientation, and ensuring that scouting was open to everybody. And again, we've still got a way to go, but we've got a lot better. One of our fastest growing areas is Muslim scout groups. We've set up 45 Muslim scout groups in the last 3 years, each with about 100 people. And the Muslim community are very, very supportive of what we do.
So for us it was very important that Scouting was seen as not an exclusive but an inclusive organisation. This thing about relevant, that we wanted people to see Scouting as relevant and change the image of Scouting. It was really important to us. Because as I say, people thought we were jolly good, but something in the 1960s. So we did a lot of campaigning. We made statements on issues that affect young people, not quite political statements, but social issues that affect young people, so that Scouting was seen as the voice of young people, because with that many young people involved in this country, we're a very powerful voice. So that was that bit, and then we kind of moved on to the next stage here, which is where we're at the moment here. And how have we gone about that? You don't need to, this is too much detail, but we've gone through a big process of consulting with people, going round and round and asking our leaders what would help, where we want to go, what do we want to do. So it went on, and this is too much detail, but it sort of gives you an overview of the amount of time and effort that we went into to involve people in this process, and not seem to write it in a room and then just plonk it on top of people, which was really important. So we've come up with some statements. We've said Scouting in 2018 in the UK will make a positive impact in our communities, prepare young people to be active citizens, embrace and contribute to social change, which is, again, really important to us. So actually we're being part of the community. We're not seen as something separate. We're not seen as some sort of play school by parents. We're seen as some people who are genuinely involved in communities and making a difference, and that's really important to us. So we will be, you can read the words, shaped by young people in partnership with adults, so genuinely involving young people in shaping their Scouting, enjoyed by more young people and more adult volunteers. In other words, we have to keep growing. We realised that when we stopped declining and started to grow, everything changed for us. Everything. Our leaders felt more confident that they were part of something that was successful. Businesses wanted to be part of something that was successful. Our royal family wanted to be part of something that was successful, and so on and so on. So everybody felt good about being part of something that was growing, and so growth was really important to us. And then there is this thing about being as diverse as the communities in which we live. So I said, in the community, does your Scouting reflect the type of people that you have in your community? And then also, equally importantly, we tried to define how we wanted people to feel, because we realised that how our leaders felt was very important in ensuring the future. So they should be empowered, they should feel valued, and they should feel proud to be Scouts. So what can we do to make them feel like that? Involve them, make sure that we have lots of ways of saying thank you to them, both nationally and locally, but also make them proud of being part of Scouting as well. So, longer term, what have we done? We had a vision for 10 years, we have business objectives for about 2 to 3 years, and then we have an annual resource allocation discussion about how we're going to meet some of these business objectives. And the impact of this has been this graph. You'll have to excuse this, but this takes us from about 1993 to about 2012-13. But you can see that the numbers were declining here. This is the percentage decline. And then it's sort of come back up here. So you can see we started this process here, about here. And for the first 4 or 5 years, we continued to go down, because we had to, make so many changes that weren't going to have an impact. And then in this period here, the best thing we could say was we're not losing so many as we used to. This is not a very positive message, but it was about as good as we could get. And then, in about 2005, we started to grow, and we've now 9 years we have been growing in the organisation. But if we hadn't done all this work that I've just described beforehand, we wouldn't have had those 9 years. I'm absolutely clear about that at all.
What happened in 2011?
What, here?
Yes.
We don't know. Don't know. It was just bizarre. We were really frightened that you know, we'd start with going down there. But actually, it's come back up, and then it's flattened. So it hasn't. You know, I'm not pretending that it's sort of up here. You know, it's stayed at around 3% a year. So it's sort of flat. But growing at 3% a year is, you know, we'd all prefer it to be more, but it's okay. But yes, this was very frightening. All right, and I don't. We still don't know why that was. All right, sometimes these things just happen. All right. Sorry, it's not a clever answer, but genuinely, we looked at it and just said, you know, what's going on here? And we were very, very frightened until this number came in, and then we were okay. All right. So. So it's all about sustaining the growth in both young people, adult volunteers, our partnerships, increasing our resources, being relevant, the diverse, our profile, and the impact. And I think, you know, from one of the things looking back now, because you know you can look backwards and say, people often say, so what was the thing that made a difference? You know, the answer is the one thing we have learned is that there is not one thing. You know, a lot of ASOs that I work with think if I change our program, everything will be fine. If I change our uniform, everything will be fine. If I change our brand, everything will be fine. That's not true. If we have learned one thing, it's a sustained strategic approach across a whole range of areas that's really, really important. So, what's the most important thing? Some key factors in what changed the way we operated. In terms of our youth program, it was the research we did with young people, which was fascinating, absolutely incredibly powerful. We went and found 2,000 young people who had left Scouting and asked them why they left. And that was incredibly powerful. So, we couldn't understand why we had falling numbers in our Beaver Scouts, which are 6 to 8 year olds. We had numbers that were going down, but our waiting list was increasing. But actually, when we went and asked young people in that age range why they had left, they were saying it was too noisy in the meeting room. We didn't like it. It was too noisy. So what was happening was that our leaders knew this, and they were making the group sizes smaller to keep the noise down. All right. So we knew that if we were going to grow, we had to start new groups, not get these people to make their groups bigger. Does that make sense? Yeah? It was absolutely fascinating. When we asked leaders why teenagers left Scouting, they said, in the UK we have this thing where a lot of young people have jobs on Saturday and Sunday. I don't know if it's the same for you, but they work in shops and so on. And they said, well, it's all to do with jobs, it's to do with work, it's to do with work, it's to do with school. They have too much schoolwork, it's to do with the image of Scouting, you know. That's what the leaders told us. When we went to the young people and said, why are you leaving? They said, it's because of the leaders. That they treat us like children, and we're not children. We're, you know, nearly adults, and we want to be treated properly. So what that said to us was we had to change the way we train our leaders, the type of people we recruit. Very, very powerful things. We're also, another example was we asked parents, for instance, why young people left between Cubs and Scouts. So we were losing a lot of young people between our Cub section and our Scout section. And when we asked the leaders, they said, oh, it's because you've removed, we had a badge that young people could earn when they were moving from from Cubs to Scouts. And they said, it's because you've done away with the badge. And I have to say, we said, this is ridiculous. I can't believe that one badge makes a difference. You know, really? But actually, when we went and asked the parents and the young people, we found out that the primary reason people didn't move from Cubs to Scouts was because Cubs and Scouts were on different nights in the week. So Cubs was on a Wednesday, say, and Scouts was on a Friday. Now, on a Friday, okay, 99% of young people in the UK get taken to Scouts in a car or by their parents, okay? And on Friday, the young people had, and I'm sure it's no different in Lithuania, the young people are very busy.
So they do something else. They go to for football, or they go to hockey, or they do some other after-school club on a Friday. So in their mind, Wednesday is their scout night. So if you ask them to change the night, they have to give up this activity, and they won't do it. So they say, I'm not doing it. But also the parents say, in my diary, Wednesday night is scout night. I'm happy to take my scouts to my child to scouts on a Wednesday. I can't do it on a Friday because I have something else on. So the young person can't go. All this sort of research and finding these young people and speaking to them was absolutely, really, really powerful to us. And what it enabled us to do was focus on and change those things that made a difference, rather than focusing on things which didn't make a difference. And that's always the danger without that research. I've already talked about adult recruitment and how important that was to us, and focusing on adults and getting more adults in was really powerful to us. Changing our image through the young spokespeople and through the rest of it, we've already talked about that. Having a vision and a plan nationally agreed but locally delivered was really important to us. So everybody signed up to it. So the staff, the national volunteers, the board, our commissioners, we had one plan and everybody knew what the priorities were. And managing those people was really important to us as well. But the key thing really was this holistic approach. So having a holistic approach to strategy, having all those things in one place was really important to us. All right? And still is. Does that make sense? The other figure that I didn't write on here, which is again a real worry to us, is that we now have I've said we've grown for 9 years, but we also have a waiting list of young people who can't join Scouting because we don't have enough space for them, of 40,000 people. So we have 40,000 young people now in the UK who can't join because we don't have space, who are on a list saying I want to join, or saying I want to be part of it. We've also, the other thing I didn't put up here was that in this 9 years growth, actually we have doubled the number of teenagers involved in Scouting in the UK in 10 years. So the 14 to 18 age range has doubled in this period. So it's not all about children, actually it's about teenagers as well. It's right across that age range. And that's been amazing, fantastic as far as I'm concerned. Because we know it's very easy to start children's sections. We can do that just like that. If we have the adults, we can start them. But getting teenagers is a very hard thing. I'm sure it's the same for you. But we've managed to double the number, which has been an amazing journey for us. So, really important. Is that okay? Yeah?
Yeah.
Good. I'll sit down now. Next is, there you go. Any questions? It's not smart. Right. Do you want to think? Do you want more food? Because the food will be thrown away otherwise. Do you want a drink? There's some tea and coffee there. And then perhaps we can have a conversation. Is that okay?
Yes.
Is that what you wanted? Yeah?
It's a very good overview.
Okay. Have some more food and some tea and
Do you
coffee.
feel concurrence from other youth organizations like Duke of Edinburgh or...
Do we use them?
No, it's
Yeah,
just like a
concurrence.
competition with others.
Yes.
No.
No.
Not really. The Duke of Edinburgh is part of the 14 to 18 programme in Scouting.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that's not a competition.
But some from Scouts go to Duke of Edinburgh.
Well, it's part of our
40.
programme. They can do it as part of our programme.
Yeah.
But